is that just because we're here for breakfast doesn't mean we're going to be here for lunch. We too, at some point in our lives, are going to be meeting the highest person in the land. All right, I need a little congregational participation here. My mom makes something that was handed down from my grandma Carlson called birthday rice. And it may sound simple enough to say it's like rice pudding, but it's not. It's all in how you make it, right, Mom? It's all in how you make it. You got to use a double boiler. It literally is a labor of love. I need a little participation here. What are some things that have to be prepared a certain way or they're a total flop? Huh? Lefse. Yes, lefse. Mm-hmm. Look. There is, I think I've told you, Bonnie Groff once came up with the answer to why there were leftover fish with the loaves and fish. It's because it was lutefisk and nobody wanted any. So, what's something else? I think, I've been told if there are certain cakes that if you don't make the cake the certain way, it's a flop, or I've heard that about souffles, or all sorts of things. It's how you make it. It's a labor of love. And how we make things. And Joseph is going through, in essence, a labor of love. As we left him last week, remember, he's gone from the pit of going into slavery to working in Potiphar's house and being the head guy, to being lied about and being thrown into prison. And there he is in prison. And the cupbearer and the baker, they came and said, "We had this dream. What can you tell us?" He told them what was right. He said to them, "Please make sure to tell Pharaoh about me." Well, the cupbearer, 2 years later, remembered Joseph. It's been 2 years. For us, it's been a week. 2 years for Joseph. The cupbearer failed to remember or to mention Joseph. So, as Garth so greatly read that long Old Testament, and I do realize it was long, it's not as much about the dreams that we're going to talk today. It's about what happened. What happened in that whole dialogue. You see, Pharaoh had these dreams, right? And he wanted to know what they meant. So he called all the wise guys, not those wise guys. He called the other wise guys in and said, "What does this dream mean?" And there were crickets. Nobody knew. Now I myself am surprised that they didn't make something up just to sound good. But no one knew. But the one said, the cupbearer said, "I know this guy. Oh my gosh, I forgot about him." 2 years ago, he forgot about him. I forgot to mention, I forgot to hold up my end of the promise. Like we talked last week about if you say you're going to pray for somebody, do it. I hope you all did that this week. Prayed for somebody. Or told somebody, "I'm going to pray for you." But you see, here's what's happening. The cupbearer says, "I know a guy. I got a guy who can do this. He interpreted all our dreams." Pharaoh says, "Go get him. Go find me this man." Now, Joseph wakes up that morning. It is a morning like every other morning. If you can imagine what the prison life must have been like. But remember, he was put in charge of the prison. He was made the highest ranking prisoner there. So 2 years later, he has no idea on that morning what's about to happen. He has no idea he's going to experience a major turning point in life, an amazing promotion. And so, here he comes. Unknown to Joseph, that morning was about to change everything. Everything. the king of the land, the one most powerful in the land, wanted to see him. Wanted to see him. And I'm sure, kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge once said, I'm sure when the Pharaoh woke up, he was like, I think I had a bad piece of meat or an undigested piece of cheese or something. What was that dream? Sure, he had no clue. But that dream was placed there for a reason. That dream was brought to him for a reason. It was a way that God was able to bring Joseph forward in the right time. That's the key. In the right time. For what Joseph had been going through was God preparing a dish. Was God preparing something, not lutefisk, something good. Something that had to take time. So Joseph Pharaoh sent for Joseph. He said, go get that man. And Joseph had no idea what was coming. But there's an interesting part to this, and this is going to bring me to where I want to go. What did Joseph do when he found out that Pharaoh wanted to see him? You remember? He cleaned himself up, right? He cleaned himself up, he shaved, he made himself presentable to go see this highest person in the land. But what I want you to remember is, some point in time, we are going to be called to go see not the highest person in the land, not the president. We're going to be called to see the creator of the world. It takes time to create a masterpiece. It takes time to make a dish so tasty. And that's what happened here. As we've been looking at this whole period the last few weeks, we're looking at the waiting periods, how God makes us wait. It's not in our time, guys. It's in His time. Remember, we got another guy in the gospel text here today who had a beard, right? He was wearing camel's clothes, and he had a beard. But even with John, there was a waiting period. Remember, Zechariah was chosen to go into the temple that day. That's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It happened to be that day, and Zechariah goes into the temple. The angel of the Lord comes and says, hey, Zechariah, you guys are going to have a baby. You and Elizabeth are going to have a baby. Zechariah says, say what? And that does not make the angel of the Lord very happy. And what does he do? He mutes him, puts on the mute button. Lips can move, but there ain't no sound. He puts on the mute button. He says, you are going to name this child John. And then you will be able to speak again. So there's a whole long period where this happened, and he's waiting for, that's 9 months of not being able to talk. I can't imagine. Some of you may wish I had that, but I can't imagine. 9 months of not being able to talk because he says, hey, what? But you see what was happening. God was preparing a masterpiece. He was making a point that, hey, dude, you are going to name this child John. And so we have the waiting of Joseph. We have the waiting for Zechariah and the world. Joseph goes to see the Pharaoh. He's promoted to the highest person in the land. John is born. After that waiting period, he is the one in the wilderness crying out, prepare the way of the Lord. I once was in a musical a long time ago, and my part was John the Baptist. And I opened up, prepare ye the way of the Lord. What a great sound, what a great message to be able to give. And so, my friends, we too are in a waiting period. We too, there's one thing I've learned over and over again over the last many, many months and years, is that just because we're here for breakfast doesn't mean we're going to be here for lunch. We too, at some point in our lives, are going to be meeting the highest person in the land. Not the president, but the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We too are going to be called for that purpose. But in the meantime, we're a work in progress. We're in a waiting period. Our lives are the culmination of where God brings us. You know, so many times you can look around and you say, oh, I get it. But this is also the time where we know that Jesus is going to be calling us. We know that's going to happen someday. So this is the point in our lives where we can also clean up. So brothers and sisters, that's what I'm saying. God has us in a waiting period. He's creating a wonderful masterpiece through you. So that when God calls you, when Jesus comes to take your hand, when Jesus comes to be born, this waiting period of Advent is all worth it. May you ponder upon that in your heart. May you say, oh my gosh, this is a really difficult thing. Yeah, but God's putting us through it for a reason. God puts us through all sorts of good and bad. Prepares us the way that a masterful dish needs to be prepared. May we think about that all week.